Yeah, good advice. Do not give up. Listen here to AJ's part, but she takes science and a little art, so you can recover hard, recover smart, recover hard, recover smart. Trust your mind, trust your heart, recover hard, recover smart, recover smart.
Kayaka runner and former netballer AJ Davis ruptured her ACL during a netball game on November the 19th, 2024. In Recover Hard, Recover Smart, AJ interviews athletes, coaches, and other experts to learn real-world insight to help guide all sports people through the dark and challenging journey of recovering from injury.
Recover smart. Recover smart.
Hi, AJ Davis here. Thanks for tuning into this chat with David Olney. David is my mentor and a former remedial therapist with a number of sports teams. And a few things that surprised me in this chat that I want to draw your attention to are what the psychological difference is that David noticed in athletes, which influences how long injuries take to heal, as well as what are transferable skills, how to use them, and why they are so important for recovery. I hope you find this helpful. Hello and welcome back. Today I'm here with David Olney, who spent a number of years working as a remedial therapist with elite sports people. David, welcome.
Hello, AJ.
Hello. While you were working as that, what was your main role and what did it involve?
My role at the time was a bit variable in that, being a blind person at the end of high school, I wanted a job that relied on my hands, seeing I couldn't see things. So I studied as a sports injury masseuse. And then I worked with very good chiropractors and physiotherapists. And I did some work with different sports teams where if they'd met me through coming to the chiropractor or physio, they'd then say, well, would you like to come and be available on days where we play? So I did work with fairly high-level netballers and hockey players. And at that point, we regularly used to see some of the guys from the Crows in the early 90s before they had their own big setup. So it was really good. I got to basically work on very elite people where it was their job, very good athletes who were amateur but had to have a job on the side, and just people who enjoyed sport and saw how all three handled recovery, injury, setbacks, and just found it all very, very interesting.
Oh yeah. On a psychological level, what differences did you notice between them?
The interesting thing I picked up really early on is that the professional athletes who earned their money from, being an athlete, so the football players at that point, and maybe a few of the soccer players, they seem to be at much greater risk of injuries taking a long time to heal and more chronic pain. And my suspicion was because it's their only job and the thing they've wanted forever, and if it disappears, they don't know what to do. They're putting so much more psychological pressure on themselves, which I began to wonder if that was a trigger for chronic pain.
What things have you seen that helped injured players stay focused and positive about getting back on top or dealing with the reality that they can't do their sport?
The thing I learned at the time, and I don't think I really understood it when I was a remedial therapist, I only understood it years later, is that people who had a life outside of sport and people who understood that sport was only going to be a part of their life. For the people who were amateurs or semi-professional, they already had a job they didn't mind.
Yeah.
They already had probably put more investment in other aspects of their life. And because of that, they kind of used sport as something they loved, but it wasn't the be-all and end-all. They were more able to see the transferable skills.
Oh, yeah.
And this was stuff I didn't really understand until the 2010s, where by this point, I'm a university professor, I'm working as a consultant, and I start doing work with Special Operations Command and start working with elite soldiers and realising elite soldiers get terrible injuries and they almost always recover well.
Really?
And I'm like, why? Well, they know you can only do elite soldiering for so long. They know that their first career ends in their mid-30s. They know they're going to have to move on to a second career. So their whole understanding is, I love what I do, but I'm going to have to transfer all these skills at some point anyway.
Yeah.
That day just might be a bit earlier. And I think that mindset of sport isn't about sport. Sport is about a whole series of transferable skills. And if you see that those transferable skills are going to make your life better forever if you let them, then if your sporting career is a bit shorter than you intended, shrug. Now, if it's your only income, that's still probably terrifying, but it shouldn't be as terrifying as it appears to be.
How do you reckon one achieves this mindset of their sport might end, it will end in their mid-30s?
I think, now we have very good sports psychology, and I think that's really important. But something I've realised from being trained as a philosopher is a lot of time in life, people don't strictly need psychological advice. They don't have a pathology that needs to be altered. What they need is some better tools for life.
Yeah.
And philosophy very often has better tools for life. And particularly the Roman Stoics, where it was all about, you can't change a lot of things in life, but you can change how you approach them. There's a wonderful statement by a Japanese author that really sums up Stoicism perfectly, and that is, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
That's really interesting.
And I think that's the point I was trying to get across to you when you were recovering from your injury. Yep, you're going to have some pain, but don't suffer through this.
Yeah.
Just recover through this, which is an entirely different thing to do. And what I saw was, particularly working with elite soldiers, they're far more likely to pick up a book on Stoicism than an elite athlete is, because an elite athlete will probably go and talk to the coach and go and talk to the physiotherapist and go and talk to the sports psychologist. Well, in the military, until you're very injured, you don't have those resources easily available.
Yeah.
And yet most very good units have a bookshelf in the mess, and you are recommended to read. So 19-year-olds read books on the idea of pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, and go, well, this is going to make recovering from jumping out of a helicopter a bit better.
Oh my God.
Oh, look, I've known people who've got out of a helicopter under fire from 3 metres up and ran on that foot for 3 days and then taken the boot off and realised they've had a fractured ankle.
Oh my God, and they didn't even realise.
Because in that world, you don't have time.
Yeah.
If you can't function, you and your family die.
Oh my God.
So it's a completely different way of viewing how far you push your body. You don't push your body to get a magic time on a clock. You push your body because your best friend will be alive.
Aww.
So this is what I mean. This is why I give you a bit of grief occasionally, that learn what you can out of sport.
Yeah.
But remember, it's just sport.
Yeah.
The transferable things are fabulous. And if you can get a medal along the way, yippee.
Yeah.
But the mindset stuff is a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah, no, I remember you talking to me ages ago, so I do, kayaking is one of my sports, and you said, basically kayaking is a useless skill, but it's the things you get out of it, the dedication and, the waking up early and just focusing on it is what's important.
Yeah, unless you want to become one of those people that kayaks out to sea and fishes for large fish from your kayak.
Yeah.
And then, lives in your kayak for 3 days at a time at sea. Kind of not a useful skill set.
Yeah.
But all the things that allow you to be good at it, they are immensely useful. In terms of a way to sort of get your head around this, there's a wonderful book called The Paramedic Mindset, written by Lee Anderson. And Lee Anderson's aim was to become a professional rugby player. And at 17, he had major knee injuries and major knee surgeries and then a major knee infection, to the point where it looked like at one point he might have even lost his lower leg.
Oh my God.
They might have had to take it off. If they couldn't, if they could keep his leg, it might have been that his knee wouldn't have bent properly. In the end, they managed to get him back to being able to walk and have a normal life, but not ever be a professional athlete. But what he realised as he was being rushed back and forth to hospital several times was these paramedic people were amazing. And when he realised, well, I can't be an elite athlete, I think I'll try and be a paramedic, he started to realise, hang on, my discipline from sport works just as well at uni to be a paramedic.
Yeah. Wow.
My recognition that you need to be good at your skills but also be situationally aware is the same. Teamwork is the same. Supporting the team is the same. And Lee Anderson basically says in the book that, whatever you do, you need to have the technical competence of that thing totally under control. So the kayaking, it's how you move that kayak round, how you move it fast, how you stop it, how you turn it. That stuff you need to get to the point where there's no thinking whatsoever.
Yeah.
But the other things from Lee Anderson's perspective are as or more important, and that is, are you looking after your physical well-being? Are you looking after your psychological well-being? And are you looking after your social well-being? And his argument is, unless you're doing all three, if there's a deficit in one of them, that will creep into your well-being and your performance all over. So in a sense, everything I saw as a young remedial therapist and then working with elite soldiers sort of gets summed up in that thing that if you get your competence high, you look after your physical well-being, you look after your psychological well-being, you look after your social well-being, the great likelihood is you'll recover from any injury that you can recover from. And if you can't recover from it, well, guess what? You'll reapply yourself in a meaningful way.
Yeah. Yeah. In preparing for the interview, you talked about your own awareness about your cane arm, which is the arm that holds your cane, and how seriously you guard it. Can you talk me through what you do to ensure it doesn't get injured?
Yeah, and in this case, I did some things that really caused it major problems. Like, for a while I was a violinist.
Oh.
And the combination of the cane in my right hand and then the violin bow in my right hand. So what this meant was some days, for 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, there was something in my right hand making my right wrist work.
Yeah.
And that kind of resulted in a pain level that I can only describe as like someone lit a cigarette lighter inside my wrist.
Oh, ow.
So I went and saw the orthopaedic surgeon. I went, well, David, you've got all this excess bone in your right wrist. It's really protective, but you're just doing too much. Now, we can take a little bit of bone out, but then when the cane hits something and that energy shocks back through the handle, your pain level is going to be even higher because your wrist won't be as robust. So you're going to have to pick, play violin and have pain, or stop playing violin and hopefully the pain will go away.
Yeah.
So I did the thing of stopping playing violin for a couple of weeks to see what happened, and the pain just went away.
Yeah.
And then I went, okay, I need to make decisions to really look after my wrist. So, my rule always was, if I was sitting at my desk at university working on an essay and I wanted to get up and have a glass of water, I had to go and do 10 push-ups every time I got up from my desk.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So a lot of days I was doing 200 push-ups a day.
Oh, my God.
But it was the fastest way to keep that right arm so strong and so flexible that it could protect itself better.
Was it hard giving up violin for that?
It was awful.
Yeah.
It was utterly awful. I think the saving grace was literally the week after I walked into a room and started tutoring undergraduates and realised, hang on, transferable skills.
Yeah.
I had always enjoyed teaching people to play guitar and teaching people to play violin.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done as much of it as I wanted because I hadn't had time. But all those skills I'd developed to try and understand how someone learns and then put the information in front of them in a way that works for them, the minute I walked in a classroom, I'm like, hang on, I'm new to this. And these kids have just walked out of this tutorial buzzing and saying, see you next week, and sounding happy.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't realise what you've worked out until actually you've already done it.
Yeah.
So I really didn't understand the transferable thing, transferable skill thing properly until, I walked out of a tutorial room and went, okay, I still am very sad I'm not playing violin, but this tutoring thing, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe this can make up for it. Not totally, but enough that you don't just get down and go, well, what do I do now?
Yeah. Sounds like a really important mindset to have, especially for elite athletes.
Yeah, like another book you might really enjoy. There's a fascinating guy called Robert DeMartini, and he wrote a book called The Values Factor. And he basically argues in the book, having started life as someone with major learning problems and all sorts of trauma in his life, but ended up, by the time he was 30, with a PhD, despite having left school like at 13.
Oh, wow.
So he turned it around for basically being illiterate and innumerate at 18 to having a PhD by 30.
Yeah.
And what he worked out is, if you work out what your core values are and the things you do always align with your core values, it really doesn't matter if you have to give something up. You will cope as long as the new thing also aligns with your core values.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're an elite athlete and one of your core values is you love competing to win, okay, there's plenty of places in the corporate world where that desire to compete to win is going to do you as many favours as it would in sport. So it's not that you need to change your values. You just need to find things that align with your values of working hard, dedication, enjoying competition, you know, enjoying achievement. There are plenty of ways to make those things the centre of your world, even if it's not sport. And you know, I suppose there'd be some coaches who would argue that I'm telling people sport's not that important. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. What you need to say is sport is incredibly important to me now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give it 110% now, but it's got a use-by date. And at that point, I'll apply all my values to the next thing. And that will probably have a use-by date too. But that is fine because I'm being honest about it and I'm still acknowledging I am not happy unless I put in 110%. So there's no reduction in performance here. There's just an acknowledgement of the normalness of change,
Yeah.
of doing different things.
And to finish off, one last question. What advice would you give someone going through a long-term injury, like an ACL injury, to improve their rehab and their mindset?
In terms of their mindset, really definitely start with something like Lee Anderson's book, The Paramedic Mindset. Read some Roman Stoicism, read some Marcus Aurelius, or read some Seneca, or read some Epictetus. If it seems overwhelming to go back and read the original books, something like Ryan Holiday's books on Stoicism are very accessible, and get a mindset that prepares you for pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Because really that's the biggest important first shift. And the second thing is to start going, I'm going to do all the right things to recover, but I'm also going to start listing off what are all the transferable skills I've got out of sport.
Yeah.
Work out what your values are. Work on the basis I'm going to recover. That's my aim. But if it doesn't get back to 110%, it just means I'm moving on to the next thing I want to do slightly earlier.
Yeah.
So it's not about giving up. It's just about recognizing that no thing in life is everything. We're too complicated. We're too big for that.
Yeah. So don't put all your eggs like in the same basket.
No, because humans are too much more than to do that. We can have our eggs in multiple baskets and still be very high performers.
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to me, David.
You are welcome, AJ.
Thanks for listening to Recover Hard, Recover Smart. If you found this useful, AJ would really appreciate it if you let a friend know about it. She knows that recovery is hard, but this podcast is doing its best to shine a light on some smart ways of getting through it. If you'd like to learn more about AJ's story and this podcast and discover other resources and insights to help you on your recovery journey, visit this website, recoverhardrecoversmart.com.au. That's recoverhardrecoversmart.com.au.
Recover hard, recover smart.